Welcome back to another episode of Culture Gap. I got a really fun one here for you. I got Mr. Rhett Weaver. Rhett,
what up, bro?
Dude, thanks for coming on here.
Dude, I'm excited.
Dude, you are freaking one of the coolest people I've ever seen in my life, man.
Cool.
We started following each other a couple months, maybe a month ago when you came to that event Ryan and I spoke at. And
yep.
But I've actually heard about you way before that.
Really?
Well, Ryan talks about you a lot.
Good.
And then I actually saw a lot of your stuff on social media and Ryan sharing it, and then just super cool to connect with you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
So, if you want to intro yourself and kind of explain, I guess, everything that you do. And I know that you're freaking huge in the mortgage market here in Utah and expanding. So Yeah.
Currently right now, vice president of a mortgage company. I basically run a mortgage company here in Utah. It's been real fun. We've been doing it. I kind of switched over that role about 2 years. So I've been in the mortgage industry for almost 10 years now. I always thought success in the mortgage industry was being over $100 million producer, just absolutely killing it, making a ton of money. And then, what's funny about kind of the mortgage industry is it's super boring.
Right.
Like nobody, like my customers, like once every 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So I don't have a product to sell. I don't get to really go to social all the time and talk about what interest rates are doing because you're not moving right now.
Right.
So why would you be interested in me? Right.
Right.
And so that's been kind of the hard concept, I would say, probably over the last decade. Is how do we go to social? What do we do with social and stuff like that? But,
right.
Being in this role, it's been super fun because it's kind of, I'm a guy that's always looking to move forward. I always want to grow. I always want to do bigger and better. And so I just kind of got to that point in my career where it's man, I hit $100 million in doing mortgages. I thought it was legit. I thought everybody would praise me. We'd become a manager, regional stuff like that. And there was zero talk about it.
Wow.
So it was just one of those things where it's man, I put in all this work. Where's my next opportunity? What are we going to do?
For sure.
And I think what's funny is when you look back at life, from a long, long time ago, it all bleeds into everything that's going on now. And that's what's kind of created a lot of opportunity to kind of be where I'm at today.
For sure. I mean, you got to go through things to get where you're at now. I mean, I know I was just on your podcast. We had a way too long conversation. I feel bad for both of our wives, but I was in network marketing, doing all that stuff. But the ups and downs and the successes and failures of everything kind of set me up for now.
Yeah.
And I can look back on it and be negative and say it set me back, or I can look at it and be positive and say maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at because of it.
Yes.
And so I like your outlook on that.
I know.
So how did you get in the mortgage business? Where did you, have you always been in the mortgage business? Where'd you kind of start at?
Yeah. I mean, if I were to go back, dude, my life's kind of funny. It's, once I came home off the LDS mission, I always played sports growing up. Right. So sports was a big thing. And I think my life, the way, if I was to go back, I would say sports was the center of everything. Right. It takes a lot of work to become extremely good. When you're good, you have a lot of confidence. Right. I just remember leaving high school, going on an LDS mission, showing up in Peru. That's where I went for 2 years.
Okay.
And getting in the mission field with 220 people, 250 people. And it's whoa, nobody knows me.
Right.
And it was humbling, dude.
Right.
And I remember that was the first time in my life where I'm dude, I just went my whole life with a group of friends. There was 10 of us that played football, basketball, and baseball together. We won championships together. We had a lot of fun together. And then you get somewhere speaking Spanish, legit dirt hills. And then you sit there and you realize man, this is it for 2 years. Nobody knows me.
Right.
But what was fun about that is I put my mindset back into, okay, I'm going to focus on this for 2 years and I'm going to try and get to the top, right? I want to be in leadership positions. I want to help other missionaries. I want to help other people. And so it was just the next phase of life of man, how do I grow here?
Right.
Right. And I remember that feeling. And when I came home, I'm okay, cool. What am I going to do?
Right.
You got to go to college. You got to start the next phase of your life and you're going to start at zero again.
For sure.
So I really think that transition coming out of high school, going on an LDS mission and then coming home helped me transition into okay, I got to put a chip on my shoulder. I'm out here to kind of prove people wrong.
Right. So what, I guess, going back, because I think it's a really key point, I think it's pretty powerful, is you made a decision, kind of a defining moment, you can call it, in your mission to be the best.
Yeah.
What do you think made you want to be that? Is there something, is it a fundamental your mom and dad always taught you? Is it something, maybe is it the sport to always just achieve greatness? Because there are a lot of people out there, and no offense, but they just are okay being okay. They might go on a mission and I just want to get to the mission and I don't really care and go through it. or they might, work at a job and just be okay being okay and never really have aspirations of being in those leadership positions and growing in the company. Like what made you do that? Because I think it's important to know that.
I think a lot of stuff is like, we talked about this on my podcast the other day, like everything's a game to me. And once you can flip whatever you're doing in life into a game where it becomes fun, where you're looking forward to get up, you're looking forward to really, when we call it a game, Jason, I think it's how do we help other people?
Right.
And when you help other people, that becomes extremely fun because it's two things. You've got to have enough knowledge to go help.
Right.
Right. If you don't know what you're doing or talking about or really who you want to become, right. If we're just trying to be followers of men versus leaders, like you can't be a follower and teach.
For sure.
You've got to be a leader, which means you've got to have the knowledge and the confidence to lead, which then in turn you can go teach and you can go help others.
Do you think it's a mindset thing?
1,000%. And I think a lot of times, like, I do have a little bit of an addictive mindset, meaning like either I'm all in or I'm all out.
Right.
Well,
I mean, that's why you're doing $100 million a year in freaking mortgages.
Yeah. So to me, like, that was a big thing. Like with sports, it was like we were all in all the time.
Right.
Like working out, making sure we were good. I kind of look back and think high school's a blessing. Like when I look at my career, like people ask me, they're like, what year did you graduate? I'm like 2004. They're like, oh, you won the state championship in football that year. I'm like,
that's the golden years of Davis.
That was the golden years. I'm like, but here's what's funny, dude. Is like, no, I was the year before.
Really?
We won 2 football games, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, and we barely, like Jason, we barely made it into the playoffs because our region would allow one extra team that year. It was our year in the rotation where our region allowed one extra team.
Wow.
So we got into the state playoffs.
1 and 2 games.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what's crazy though, dude, is like when I look back on my high school career, and I tell this to a lot of people, I think we had some of the most talented players that ever went through Davis High.
Really?
Basketball, I don't know. We won 2 games, I think.
Really?
2 or 3 games in basketball. But the problem was, Jason, is like everybody had egos. Everybody on the team was about themselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And everybody's parents were about their kids.
Right.
Which was, hey, you got to go score 40 tonight. You got to go put up 20 tonight.
Right.
You got to go throw the football or go run the football, or you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then you had a bunch of coaches that didn't know how to coach us.
Right.
And so you come out of like, junior high into high school where you're dominant and you win a lot of championships to a senior year where you absolutely flop. Right. But there's so much that comes out of that.
For sure.
Because you realize like, hey, coaches are just people.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't know what they're doing. And when I look back at high school, Jason, I'm like, that guy's just a teacher.
Right.
And the football coach, basketball coach, baseball coach, I'm like, they're just teachers at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think the hard part for me at that stage was like, hey, dude, why aren't you helping all of us move on?
Right.
Why aren't you playing the best players on the court? Why do I feel like parents are getting more involved than the actual play of basketball or the play of football?
Yeah, that's my biggest.
You know what I'm saying?
Sports, yeah.
And so that year, Jason, was honestly one of the best years of my entire life because it was almost a relief when it was over.
Really?
You work so hard to get there. Then you're like, man, I'm glad it's over. But then you sit there and think like, I always had aspirations and dreams to go play college football, but that's a flop because we weren't very good.
Right.
Well,
and it goes to like, and I was about to ask you this, and I know we're kind of going on down a rabbit hole, but I think it's really good. Is, do you know, and I mean, maybe, and I don't know the really stat this, so I hope no one calls me out, is, do you know, like, I guess, how many people, you say that the most talented people, the most talented individuals coming through Davis High that year, how much went on to play at the next level? Because, like, I think it's so funny when I see people so about themselves and they could go out and win, or score, 30, 40 on the basketball court, or 20, 30 in in a high school game consistently every game, but they don't really go anywhere big because coaches see that.
Yeah.
And there's one thing if like your team is horrible and like you have to go out there and score, like coaches also see that, like, at the next level. Yeah. But if they just see a bunch of selfish people running around, and like the attractiveness is the team winning, right?
Correct.
Like when you have those big years in those big high schools or even big colleges where you're having those massive runs, like Lone Peak back in the day. Dude, you go to a freaking Lone Peak game. Like I went to Weber, one of their national championship, the state championship up here at Weber State.
Yeah,
dude, it was more packed than I've ever seen a Weber State game. And you could see all the college coaches. I mean, like they had a whole section blocked off for college coaches. But the attractiveness was they were winning. Like, that, or at least in my eyes, like that's what attracts people and team players, because that's what it takes to win at the next level.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, dude, is that coach understood what he was trying to do. right? Like at the end of the day, the leader is the person that's going to move this thing forward.
Right.
Like, dude, my senior year of basketball, I think every game there was a new starting five.
Really?
So Jason, like, how do you take a kid that's 16, 17 years old and doesn't, like, the confidence is shot?
Oh, yeah.
You don't know if you're in trouble or you
Right.
don't know if you're good. And so you have zero confidence,
Right.
which means you shoot worse. You're questioning every move that you're doing out there. Like, if you do something wrong, you get pulled,
Right.
right? I remember leaving high school, Jason, thinking like, and this is going to sound rude, but it's like, I never want to manage like what I just went through.
Right.
Like, I never want people to ever question who work for me and I think this bleeds into the leadership that I have now, but it's like,
Right.
I want to give people so much confidence in the green light that they have so much opportunity that they botch the opportunity.
I love that because
Not the other way around.
especially in kids, man. Like,
Yeah.
you are setting them up. Like, you as a, like, especially, like, I've helped, coach and do things. My best friend's about to be the head coach of a high school locally.
Yeah.
And I want to help them because, like, I had coaches tear me down.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't help me do anything. Like, I want to know why. We're like, help me not suck. Like,
Yep.
help me hone my skills and tell me why. And like, me, like, don't just scream at me because me screaming at me, I'm still going to be like, I'm the guy that's like, tell me to stop asking questions. Well, I have the,
Yeah.
my goal is to, like, I want to win, obviously. So, and if I'm not very good at something, I'm not understanding a play, make me understand a play, like, help me. You don't just scream at me and throw a ball at my head and make me run lines. I'm like, well, I mean, I was a great runner, but I don't know what I was supposed to do in the game. And, and I get it. Like, if you keep messing up and whatever, you got to teach, you got to teach kids to pay attention, do all that stuff. But like I was never taught the why behind anything. I was never taught, we were great in shape. We would run circles around anybody because we were running, hundreds of ladders practice, literally. Like, our practices were 3-4 hours long.
Yeah.
Until 10:30 at night every single day of my life. And we were really good at that. But like, there's some things that I'm like, we don't really, have the skills. Now, in my senior year, we did win the state championship, was nice, but I didn't really play. But like, what I'm like now, I'm like, my confidence was always like bad.
Yep.
Like, if I missed a couple shots, people screaming at me, like, I never had that person motivating me, telling me to, hey, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. And I was one of the best shooters on the team, but I had no confidence. And like, I think it's a broken system, and you see, like, we're talking about Lone Peak, like, I don't know the coach. I don't know how the locker room was, but my guess is he knew how to talk to his players. He knew how to relate to his players. He knew the personalities of his players. There are some players that you can scream at and that motivates them. There are some players that you can scream at and that demotivates them. They shut down. They don't want to play for you anymore.
Yep.
And I think it takes a real leader and a real person to understand their team, of how the dynamic is and how they operate that team, not just having a one size fits all.
Well, it's funny, Jason, is like, I remember, going to the coach's office being like, hey, can I get some film for college coaches? And the coach being like, yeah, we don't do that here.
What?
Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, going through
a dumb leader.
I'm sorry to say that, for me though, that was kind of the culture though, right?
Really?
It's like, we're the seniority. I'm the coach, you're the player. I'm going to dictate how my brand is being branded.
Right.
Right. Like, if we win some games, great. If we don't, whatever. Right. But at the end of the day, like, Jason, this one will blow your mind. My junior year of high school, and I'm going to botch the number. Some new Jordans came out, and I swear they could be 16s. I'm going to botch the number right now. They were all white. So our coach made us wear all white shoes with no color.
Okay.
Like a Davis High, dude, you ain't showing up with red on your shoes or blue on your shoes or nothing like that, right? Because it's a team cohesiveness. Like, we either wear high socks or we wear low socks, right?
Yeah,
like,
similar coach.
So I showed up my junior year of high school. The shoe is all white, a little bit of black on the heel with a gold stripe around the backside.
Perfect colors, Davis.
Perfect colors for Davis High, right? Coach walks over, kicks my shoes, and says, Weaver, you don't think you're going to wear those this year, do you? So Jace, number one, it's like, my parents just bought me a $170 pair of shoes to play basketball in.
Right.
The coach has the audacity to kick him and say, you can't wear those.
Right.
Like, first off, I sit here and I think, like, then buy the team shoe, coach.
Right.
Like if you want the shoe to look a certain way, then like, you go spend your money on the team shoe.
Right. Or at least give us the option to order the team shoe. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
but that's what we didn't do. We didn't have a team shoe. Right. So it's like, so then you sit there and you question it. Like, I remember saying back, like, well, what's wrong with it? That was my next sentence. right? And then it's just like, hey, I don't think this team's good for you. You should probably not play here. That was a response back. And I learned it a little bit later in life. What's funny is like my junior high coach, which we loved him to death, dude. We won some district championships there at Kaysville Junior High. And that's, my wife always makes fun of me because my wife at Northridge won Gatorade Player of the Year in volleyball. And I went on to play collegiate volleyball.
That's awesome.
So she's like legit, right? So she always makes fun of me because like the only championship I have is 9th grade. You know what I'm saying? And I still got the trophy.
Heck yeah.
And I'll bring it out.
I love it.
But I remember talking to him like this was probably just like 5 years ago. And because he moved out by my mom. And so I remember talking to him like in the cul-de-sac one day. And he was just like, yeah, the way that we always learned how to coach was like we would take the best player on the team and we would tear them down. And the reason we would tear them down is to let the rest of the team know to get in line. Because if we could tear down the best player on the team and he would get in line and not talk back or do what I wanted him to do, that means the rest would follow, right?
Wow.
And then it clicked for me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what the guy my senior year of high school, junior and senior year of high school was trying to do.
Right.
But he was terrible at it.
Right.
So I felt like, hey, he's trying to rule with an iron fist. It's his way or the highway. And he just wasn't getting through to us.
Right.
And what he didn't realize is it was demotivating us and killing our confidence. And he was trying to make it like, hey, dude, everybody get in line so we can operate on a high level. And it's like, dude, you just botched this.
Right.
Right.
I mean, his belief was there, but the execution might have, not been the...
That just wasn't my age group.
Right.
And the hard part, dude, is like 2004 was like when Vince Carter came out with the Boeing shoes.
Right.
That was the first year of like customizing shoes,
if
you remember those, you know? So it was just one of those odd years where I felt like there was kind of this old school shift into the kind of like the new school side of this era. And so, but like Jason, I look back at life and that was the most pivotal year of my life because it was like, and I don't mean to be rude, but I'm like, hey, if I'm ever a leader, I'm not going to do that. I will help everybody move on. Right. I will help everybody become a manager. I'll help everybody, like, if they want to leave my company, go. I'll call 5 people for you right now and get you hired somewhere else. Yeah, no, dude, you know what I'm saying?
I love that because, it's hard in the moment, but when you look back on things, like, man, like it's like a aha, like, okay, like that happened for a reason. Like there's a mentor of mine that always says, hey, every situation, look at it like a blessing or a lesson or both. And just try to remember that. Yeah. And like something didn't happen. Okay, there's a blessing. Did I learn a lesson? And you move on. Yeah. Now I had a similar situation when I worked at GNC, and I love GNC. Dude, I was 18 years old. Yeah. I'm just working out. I was the most popular kid ever because I worked at GNC. Jason had the hookups for everything. Yeah. And I worked there with my best friend. We worked pretty similar shifts and all. Like it was the greatest job ever. Made absolutely no money. Like I think my biggest paycheck I ever had was like $815, something like that. Yeah. But it was just a blast. Like I loved it. But the problem that I had is how we were a corporate store. Dude, it was the worst environment I had ever been in my entire life. Like I come from a family of like self-development, motivation. You can do it. Like let's you dream it, you can, like, just crazy. And then I go here and I'm like the most oppressed. Yeah. Like every single day you had to call your regional manager, just scream, and he would just scream at you. Yeah. Because if you missed a sale by 1 point or this or that, or like, like, hey, how many customers do you have? 2. And your stats are off. Well, I had 2 customers and a freaking, the whole shift, we worked from like 3:30 to 9:30. The whole shift I had 2 customers. What am I supposed to do? Like, we should have done it, like, just screaming at you. Like, okay, well, how about you guys do a better job of getting people in my store and then I'll be able to sell them. Like it was always that huge disconnect. Correct. And I remember one time, and I'm gonna call him out because he knows who he is, but his stupid letter was called like the Flying Pigs. He's in like a motorcycle gang called the Flying Pigs. I'm like, I don't know what a stupid thing was. Every single day, just yelling at us, and he had to call in. Right? He messages, calls my store manager and says, hey, I'm coming in. I'm whatever. He would make visits, and this is the first time I ever met him. Yeah. Well, I'm like that guy that's always like, you get introduced to someone in leadership, or you get someone above you or whatever, like you. I wore like a button-up shirt that day. I wore slacks because that was, you either wore like khakis or a polo shirt or literally a dress shirt and a tie and slacks. It was kind of a weird thing. It had the vibe was not like how a supplement store should be. Yeah. But he came in, like I met him at the front of the store. Like my manager was with him, texting him, hey, like, this and that. Like, and he actually sent in a secret shopper before. Like, he's always trying to get you tripped, like, tripping up. And my buddy actually failed. But I wasn't the one that helped out the secret shopper. But he came in, and I went to shake his hand, like reach out and be like, hey, his name is JD. Hey, JD, I'm Jason. And he slapped my hand away, and he's like, you're not going to be here long enough for me to care who you are. Get out of my way. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I look at my store manager and I'm like, and then she's like, that's just who he is. And I'm like, then why am I working for that? Like, I have been busting my butt to like sell customers as much as I possibly can. And like the thing that I hate about that is like, now you're giving people stuff that they don't really need. Yeah. And which is, you know, against my belief, especially in nutrition and supplements, is just, hey, you don't need this, but I'm supposed to sell it to you. And dude, like, you slapped my hand away. And so I had a similar situation where I was like, I am never going to treat people like this. Yeah. Like, we have to have a winning culture. We have to hit our stats. We have to hit our, you know, our goals and our objectives, the sales goals and all that stuff. Like, we have to do that, but there is a way to motivate people to hit those. Yeah. And slapping my hand away, when we were the number one store out of 22 stores in Utah, the number one store, you slapped my hand away and you cussed me like all the, like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, why? So I literally quit a week later. And was like, screw you guys.
Well, here's what's crazy too, dude, that he just doesn't understand is like, what if he loses his job?
Right.
He can't, like, he ain't calling you up.
No.
You're not giving him a job.
Oh, heck no.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what's funny to me is the whole leadership side of stuff is, especially nowadays, everybody's switching jobs so often.
Oh, yeah.
And not only that, Jace, is like people from high school, I still see all the time in some roundabout way.
Right.
And some of those people have started jobs or companies or things like that, where it's like, that might be your ticket in.
Right.
You know? And so that's the other thing is it's like, how do you teach your kids to be so good to people in high school and not bullies or assholes or whatever that looks like? Because a lot of those people, I mean, it's probably the same thing with you. It's like, you know, a lot of people that know you.
Yeah.
And so they're either talking trash because they're like, hey, I remember Jason back when he was 16, like, dude was a player,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Dude was rude to people.
Dude,
he thought he was some rich dude, you know, like just different opinions. And then it bleeds into now.
No, and I 100% agree. Like, I got, my situation is a little bit different because I only graduated with 40 people.
Yeah.
And like maybe 15 of us spoke English because we were a big foreign exchange school. So I only talked to a couple people, but one of them is that I think we you know, when we talked on your podcast, and everybody's heard it on this show, is one of my best friends from that school, how I met him, and he ended up saving my house. He was the one that hired me in that construction company and gave me a job out in sweeping floors. Like, that relationship is still super, super strong. Yeah. And I call him every single day at about 8:30 because he knows I'm on my way to work. He's like, you on your way to work? Yep. What's up, man? How's it going? We go through kind of our day doing this. Like, we are helping each other, lifting each other up. Like, hey man, I just bought this or bought that. And he'll call me, hey man, I just bought this house. I'm flipping it. And like, we are, like, and that's, you know, from that high school relationship. I actually met him back in like when he was in elementary school. It was kind of really, really long time ago. But, you know, I was that not great of a person in high school and all growing up. I had some anger issues that were unreal. But I had kind of like an epiphany my senior year, finally. Yeah. After getting suspended more times than any person. I mean, I probably missed a couple school years due to how many times I got suspended. Yeah. Luckily, I never had to make so I didn't go to school how long I probably should have. But I was like, why am I like this? Like, I don't want to be like this. Yeah. And so it was hard for me because when I became, you know, when I got into network marketing and I became, you know, this speaker and this person, I had a lot of people hit me up like, what, you're a phony, you're a fake. Like, you're not this person. Like, you're teaching all of these how to treat people and you're the worst person in the world. So I don't know if you ever seen like Billy Madison when he makes that phone call and the guy marks his name off. Well, I was the guy making the phone call, probably getting my name marked off, right? Yeah. And dude, it was hard. I mean, I had to look some kids in the face that I was just horrible to. Yeah. That literally, and they would hit me up and be like, "Hey man, I'd love to take you to coffee." I'm like, "What the freak are you talking? Why would you want to spend any time with me?" Like, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to be your Facebook friend. Yeah. And like, it was a really, really rough time for me. And I still see some of those people here and there. And I will go up and be like, hey, like, so good to see you. Like, I love you, man. Like, I'm so sorry for just being that dick, really. And I got to go speak in my high school last March. And it was I guess it's almost a year ago, dang. Yeah. And like, literally my teacher's still there, jaws on the floor, like, who is this kid? Yeah. Like, and that was kind of a proud moment for me because I'm like, man, if I could like, jaw drop my teachers and if I've changed so much that the principals asked me to come speak to kids, I'm like, okay, like that's good stuff. That's how I mean, but I can kind of see both extremes. Yeah. So, you know, I feel like it was almost and this sounds horrible because I don't feel like it was a blessing, but it was a very big learning moment for me because now I can see both sides of the story. Yeah. I know how it is on the other side. I know how, and I never really was the one being bullied, but I know how it is on both sides now. and I've been able to help a lot of kids, and like I go speak. I mean, I do whatever I can to help kids because of how I was.
Yeah.
I just want to get back.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. So I don't know, dude, high school taught me a lot. And then you go on the mission, it teaches you something completely different.
For sure.
Humbles you. You know, that was the biggest thing for me, is it humbled me. And my drive was to like, hey, I want to be a leader here. I want to teach kids. And that was the first time where it's like, that's what I enjoyed doing. That's kind of my love. You know what I'm saying? Once I got home, dude, I kind of got into summer cells. Like my dad pushed me really hard for college. Dude, I hated college.
Really?
Like,
did you ever go or never? Did you?
I probably went for a year and a half. Like
Okay.
we bought my grades, like, cause you can go online and pay to see your grades, dude. We bought them the other day. I'm a 1.3 at Weber State, bro.
Really?
Yeah, that's my GPA right now.
Crushing it.
Killing it. Dude. But a lot of it was just, I didn't show up. I didn't care, you know? So the hard part about this, Jace, is it's like doing kind of the summer cells route. And then I got a father that's pushing me to do it. And then I'm like, dude, I hate it. Like, I just don't want to go. Like, I don't see why I would spend $4,000 a semester plus books. Like, just sounds like a waste of time to me.
Right.
Like, I couldn't just see I could not, for the life of me, Jace, see the value in school whatsoever. You know? And so I knew I always loved to sell. I knew I could go do that. So this is like, you asked me a question earlier, like, how did you get into mortgages? Right. This is where like it gets funny to me, because as we started doing the summer sales program, like we would always meet a lot of people. Right. And then it always seemed like, Jace, whoever I was dating at the time was the person that would introduce me to the next job.
Really?
Yeah. So one summer, we were out with a bunch of my buddies down in Miami selling security systems. Okay. Right. And so obviously
not a bad place to sell.
Not a bad place to sell. Being LDS, we go to church. In that church was the mission president's daughter. Well, the mission president at that time down in Miami was from Bountiful, Utah. Right. So his daughter's there because she's young. You know, she's still kind of figuring out her life and stuff like that. So her and I start to date for the summer. And that summer, she's like, hey, we got some people out of Bountiful. They're starting up a food storage company. Like, you know, you might be a really good fit for them. Got home from the summer and started working for this food storage company out of Bountiful. And at that time, food storage had started to become popular. Right. Because it kind
of... Which company? I don't know if you can share. Was it Harvest? Was it Harvest something?
No, that one... Ooh, dude, that one, crap, dude. I can't remember the name of that one.
I got recruited into one too.
Did you?
Yeah.
And so anyways, like, it was a brand new startup. That one summer we went out to Colorado to sell it. We actually did pretty well in Colorado. And here's what's kind of funny about this whole scenario is like, when we were in Colorado, like they obviously flew out because we needed to figure out like the next summer of how we were going to manage and how we were going to recruit people. And me and one other kid, like really actually did very, very well with food storage. And so when we came home, I just remember, and looking back on it, like I felt like that kid got screwed. And I felt like what the other kid did was very smart, because this other kid was working for a different food storage company. Okay. And so my buddy that did extremely well was trying to recruit a team. And he ended up setting up a meeting from this kid from another food storage company to come meet like the owners. Right. Well, that kid was very smart, and he's like, well, I'll come to the food storage company, but I'm bringing my whole team, and I'm the manager. Right. Right. And so they ended up like not giving this kid any overrides or anything. And I'm like, but wait, that's the only reason the meeting got set up. You know what I'm saying? So I sat there and I looked at it, Jason. I'm like, well, I don't want to work for these people. Right. Like that was my only thought. You know what I'm saying? Right. So the next thing that I did is I knew a kid over at that food storage company. So I called him up and I was like, hey, dude, like, I just want to come in and talk to you guys. Like, I thought this was really weird and really fishy. I'm really good at food storage. Can I come work for you guys? Right. And at that time, Jace, like, they ended up going to like Sean Beck and Glenn Beck, and Sean Hannity and pumping food storage nationwide. Yeah. So what it did for me is I didn't have to go out anymore in a summer sales job and knock doors. Now the leads were coming in. Right. So all we did is have to like call the leads, send out a sample, and then follow up and sell the food storage. Right. So they're like, hey, just come build a team inside of the call center. So I was like, dude, done deal. I don't got to leave anymore.
Here back in Utah?
Yeah. Nice. Here back in Utah. Yeah. You know, so we ended up doing that for a couple years, which was, dude, we just murdered it. Cause it was like through 2008, 9, 10, 11, there was like a tsunami in 12 and dude, people just wanted food storage like crazy. So the whole prepping thing went through the roof. Right. The problem with the product, Jace, is it's good for 25 years. Right. So it's like, dude, once you sell your consumers or your customers, and I know people are always buying, but it was out of control for like a 5 or 6 year span. Right. Right. And so long story short, end up getting set up on a blind date, who is my wife now.
Okay.
Right. Right around the time that food storage company sold off and they were making a transition. So they brought in this big CEO, and the CEO had like done stuff for like this huge sewing company and had done stuff for Walmart. So they were super excited about him. Right.
Right.
Now, Jace, imagine a call center of a bunch of like college kids, like show up in like gym shorts, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Ton of us like having a ton of fun. We'd all go play golf every day, you know, and this new CEO comes in, he's like, hey, you guys got to dress up. Like, I want you in like collared shirts, slacks, all that type of stuff.
Right.
So right off the bat, you're like, the whole culture is changing.
Right.
And you're like, why would we like being, you know, in your mid 20s, you're like, dude, we're murdering it. Like, why do you care about the dress code?
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude.
Yeah. The guy comes in, he changes up the way we sell the packages, the way we're going to sell the whole program, blah, 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 blah. Comes in and he changes up, he takes us off of our software system and moves it over to a different software system. Well, dude, he can't get it to integrate.
Really?
So they can't get all the leads to integrate properly. Right.
Wow.
And this is my fault. Like, I'll take ownership in this.
Right.
So, at the food storage company, I was like top 2, top 3 every single year. Right. And he came to us and he said, hey, we're having a hard time integrating the systems. Please don't send out like mass emails or anything. Right. Well, dude, it's right before Christmas. I thought they had it figured out. Right. So I kind of sent out like this mass email. And so it ended up going out to like a bunch of different salesmen's people. And they were getting calls.
Really?
You know? So he came to me and this is like the first time in my life where I'm like, whoa, dude, like I got to quit working for people. Like, I don't want to work for people. I remember he like wanted to talk to me. I went into his office and the vice president of the company was in there. So it was me, the CEO, and the vice president. And the vice president, dude, like, we're homies.
Right.
Like, I've known the dude for 5-6 years working there.
Right.
Like, we've built teams. We've made a lot of money together, you know?
Yeah.
And I just remember the CEO at that time was just like, he sat there and he's like, dude, you're just a rogue salesman. He's like, and he called me like a mother effing rogue salesman.
Really?
Right. So I'm just like staring at him. I'm like, dude, you've been here for like 4 months.
Right.
You don't know me. Right. And so my only words back were like, well, dude, I've been like top 2 or 3 in your company for the last like 6 years before you even got here. I said, you don't know me. Right. And he's like, we don't need mother effing rogue salesman here. Right.
Wow.
And so I was like, so I looked at him and I said, so what are you saying? And he's like, we don't need you anymore. You can get out of here. He's like, go pack your stuff and get out. And I remember looking at the vice president. I said, are you going to say anything? And he just sat there like a little puppet.
Wow.
And I'm like, cool, I'm out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So obviously I did something bad. I need to take ownership in that. But I just remember sitting there looking at it. I'm like, whoa, it's this guy. It's this guy's way or the highway.
Right.
What this guy didn't understand, dude, is like being rogue sometimes is what you really want.
Yeah. I mean, your intention, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're like
when you're selling product, Jace,
right.
You're typically better than a lot of the management that's put into play.
For sure.
Which means you're outthinking them.
Which most often scares them.
Correct.
Right.
Because you're going to go make more money. You're going to go change the environment of how stuff's being sold or the way that you're saying it, or, you know, they put all this time into training and their systems and everything that they're doing.
Right.
Right. And what's funny is it was an underlining blessing because my wife was who I was dating at the time. Like, I lost my job, dude.
Right.
Like, imagine going back to her at like 26 years old, dating this girl who you think's beautiful and like you want to marry, being like, I'm jobless.
Right.
You know? But what's funny, Jace, is like she looks at me and she's like, hey, well, my aunt's a loan officer. And their whole family for a long time has been loan officers. Like, there's a lot of money in that industry. Maybe you should look at being a loan officer. Right.
Right.
And so I end up talking to her aunt and she's like, hey, just come in and then you can talk to like the manager or whatever. And I remember going in and the manager looking at me. He's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, dude, I just need a job. And he's like, well, what did you make at the food storage? And I told him the number. He's like, dude, I can't pay you that. And I'm like, well, I'm not looking for a salary. I'm just telling you like what I made there.
Right.
And he's like, dude, I can't pay you that at all. Like, you can be a loan officer, but like, I don't have time to train you. I don't have time to do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I began to like, you have to pass a test to be a loan officer, right? It's so I hate school. Like, Jace, I hate it.
Right.
So like, imagine me trying to go study on my own, which now you're talking a whole new language because now you got to learn all these rules and regulations in the mortgage business.
Right.
Right. All these different things. And so for me, it was like a foreign language because I've never worked in that area. I don't know what they're talking about, you know? And when you go take the test, if you fail the test, you have to wait 30 days.
Wow.
And if you fail the test 3 times, you got to wait 6 months.
Wow.
Right.
Right.
So I went in and took the test, failed it. Wow. Right. Waited my 30 days. I was like, I got it this time. Went in, missed it by 1. So I failed it the second time. So like me knowing my personality is it's like, dude, I can't self-study. Like I've got to have like a tutor or a mentor or somebody in front of me.
Right.
And so this company out of Salt Lake City was offering like their loan officers, if they came on and worked for them, they would have live classes to help them pass the test.
Wow.
So dude, without telling that guy that he was giving me a chance, right? I just jumped to that other company because I knew I needed it in order to pass the test.
Right.
So pass the test, it ended up being kind of like a refi company, right?
Okay.
Where they promised you like, hey, you're going to do like $8 to $10 million worth of volume a month. Like you could probably make like $8,000 to $10,000 a month. And I'm just sitting there being like, cool, I haven't made money in like 6 months. Like this sounds amazing. They're going to give me leads. Like I can pass the test, go in, pass the test, dude. And I just remember we're like sitting there for like a month. And I really liked the owner of that company, but I'm like, dude, these leads aren't converting. You're not really coaching us. Like, I don't even know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And I went back to that original guy that said like, hey, we'll hire you, but I can't train you. And I just said, hey, dude, I need a job. And he was mad that I like went to that other company without telling him. Right. So the first thing he says to me is like, dude, I don't have any space for you. And I remember sitting there begging him, Jace, like, dude, I just need a job. I'll sit in the copy room for all I care.
Right.
Like, I just need a job.
Right.
Right. And the dude to this day was like, it was way cool that he just said yes to me. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
And like forever, I'll be forever grateful to him. But Jace, like that means I had to figure it out by myself.
Right.
You know, and I do look back at it and I think that was the best way to do it. Because a lot of times in my industry, people get in and they want to be mentored. But then what ends up happening is they just become assistants.
Right.
And then they can't get out of that assistant role because they become comfortable. They end up buying a house or having a car, or they got debt.
Right.
And then it ends up scaring them from doing what they really always wanted to do.
Right.
You know, which is, I think a lot of people in life, it's like you just get a little bit too much overhead and then it just puts you in like full on scarcity mode of like, dude, I just can't do this.
Right.
You know,
If people want to be comfortable.
So I think one of the biggest blessings, Jace, was like, I had to figure it out by myself, you know? So I got very, very lucky early on in my career. About 6 months in, I started working with a real estate agent. Like, dude, I was so naive. Like, I didn't even understand. Like, this kid has been top 40 under the age of 40 for the last 5 years.
Wow.
Right? Like, I got hooked up with him and he started working with me 6 months in.
Wow.
And Jace, it was only because I was at a golf course.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I tell people all the time, if you want to meet people and enjoy life, take your hobbies and go meet people.
Right.
Because you're going to talk, you're going to interact, and they're going to want to work with you because you're good at your hobby.
Right. And it's like a I 100% agree. It's like a barrier's not there, right? Like
because you can go play golf and just get to know somebody.
I mean, you're just chilling, right? Like,
and
you get to know them at a different level. You're talking
Yep.
this, you're talking that, and it's 4 hours of a good conversation of, like, and you kind of see like how they are, when maybe you hit a bad shot. Like I love
Yep.
golf because it's like, okay, like, are you gonna rip me a new one because of a bad shot? Are you gonna talk crap the whole time? Like, how are you?
Yep.
Like, are you out here to just have a good time? Like, how serious are you? Like, there's so much that goes into a game of golf that I 1,000% agree. Like when people try to meet with me, hey, let's go golfing, and I'm not the best golfer. I mean, I can golf. I won a state championship in high school a long time ago, but like, I just let's go hang out, let's go chill.
And what I love about it, dude, is like you really get to know people.
Yeah.
So like my CPA, my financial advisor, like a lot of agents that I work with now is because of golf.
Really?
Right? That's the common factor. And so I tell people all the time, it's like, dude, just don't come in and grind. Like if you enjoy CrossFit, make sure you're at CrossFit at 2 p.m.
Right.
If you don't got anything going on, go to CrossFit because you got 30 new people in there that you've never met before that now you just became friends with instantly, and you have a common factor. You have something in common, right? If you enjoy playing basketball, cool. Go play some pickup leagues. Go to early morning stuff, whatever that is.
Pickleball.
Right? Pickleball.
Right.
Yeah. Pickleball. Go work out at a gym, whatever that looks like. Like there's so much networking opportunity to be there. And so golf was one of those things early on in my career where like we took a big advantage of it, and I met a lot of people. And then about like 4 years in, Jace, that's when I realized like, hey, I want to be like a big producer.
Right.
And like me doing it by myself, I'm like, I don't really know how to scale. Right. And so that was the first time in my life where I'm like, hey, I think I need a coach. And so like I just went to Google and I Googled like top millionaires in the loan industry. And then I realized like, hey, there was one company in the United States that taught the majority of millionaires in the loan industry.
Really?
And so I called him up and I was like, hey, like I want to do this. And the guy's like, yeah, it's $700 a month. And I'm just like, phew. Like, dude, I don't really have $700 just to blow, like I'm still building my career. Like, we barely broke the 6-figure route, like I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'll commit to it. And he's like, yeah, you got to commit for 1 year. Right. Wow. And so my personality, Jace, is like, I love being mentored. I love being coached. But if you can't add value consistently, you're a waste of my time.
Right.
That's just how I am. Right. And what I realized is 3 months into that 1 year of coaching, I was done with the guy.
Really?
Yeah. I would like pick his phone calls up, but I would get off of it as fast as I possibly could. But what I learned, Jace, is there was a couple pieces of information inside of that coaching company that I took that helped me understand how I cold contact and what I'm going to say when I get in front of them.
Really?
Right. And the number one thing that I learned, this was the number one thing that I learned from the coach, was you got to qualify people before you call them.
Right.
And like, I was blown away because I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, dude, you can't call an agent that's like a mom that's part-time that does one buyer a year.
Right.
And I'm like, they do that? Like it didn't even register for me. Cause I'm like, dude, I'm working with this kid that's murdering it. And I got this other kid that has a builder. Like two of the first couple agents that I ever met murder in life, Jace. And so like, I got lucky, like really lucky. So I thought everybody was like that. I didn't know like it was any different. I was super naive. So anyways, like my sister came to work for me. She became my assistant. And I remember like here in Davis and Weber County, like I could get a list of every agent. And then I figured out there was a place where I could go that I could look up over the last 12 months what these agents have done.
Really?
It took my sister 3 months to go through almost 4,000 agents here in Davis and Weber County. Wow. And we put them in categories.
That's a lot of agents.
So we went in and we put them in categories of like how many buyers agents they did over the last 12 months. And we did 4 or more, 2 to 4 or less than 2.
Right.
And then we did it by age because I kind of figured out like, hey, only 25 to maybe 45 is going to work with me because we got kids, like that's the only way we're going to have stuff in common.
Right.
So we broke it all down. What we realized, Jace, is only 400 of them did 4 or more buyer transactions in the last 12 months.
Wow.
So if we would have called the other
10%.
if we would have called the other 3,600 people to go to lunch, like we're just spinning our wheels. We're just wasting our time.
A lot of wasted time, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like there's people out there doing good business, doing a couple every single month, and you need those to continue to survive.
Right.
But what's crazy, Jace, is the next thing I did is I hired a kid to come in and dial, and all he did was set lunch appointments. And in one summer, we met with 72 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And that completely changed the whole thing for me.
Really?
Yeah, because we started working with more agents. We were more on top of our game. I knew exactly what we were saying, and we presented in a way that nobody ever heard before.
Right.
So we started working with so many agents, and that was the pivotal point of going from like a $12 to $15 million producer up to legit getting to a $100 million producer.
Right.
Because we put in the work and the time and qualifying people to make sure like who we were contacting, like that was the big thing.
Right.
But what's funny, Jace, is to kind of circle back on like how I became the vice president of this mortgage company, how we got to where we're at right now. A lot of it came out of frustration. Like one time I remember like with my manager that I'd worked for 8 years, kind of long story short, like, and he deserves it, dude. Like he's the manager of the company. He can spend his money on whoever he wants. And I just remember like one time he always did this big snowmobile trip with a lot of the agents and this big builder that he had and stuff like that. And I remember asking him for a favor one time and he was like, yes. And then he came back and told me no. And I remember just being like super mad about it.
Right.
Like just really mad because I was like, dude, I've like been murdering it for you. Like
right.
I've been beating you. Right. Like I'm the number one dude in the office. Like just help me out.
Right.
And I remember just looking at Roger, who I met like 6 months into my career and being like, hey dude, I think I need a change. Like, I think it's time,
right.
And he went to his broker, the owner and broker of Remax. Right. And he set me up with a different mortgage company which was Josh Romney's company, which
right.
is Intercap Lending. And I talked to those guys for a couple months, wanted to go over, they had everything set up for me to manage, and we were kind of making this transition. And I remember kind of this owner of Remax looking at me being like, dude, why don't we just start our own mortgage company? And I said, right. Cool, let's do it, dude.
Heck yeah.
And because it's always been one of those things, Jace, where I've like, I don't want anybody to be in my way.
Right.
Like, I think I know what I'm doing. I hope I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I think I can teach enough people how to run that conveyor belt without paying or committing to $700 a month.
Right.
Do I think people need coaching and mentorship? 1,000%.
Right.
Do people need to listen to other voices other than myself? 1,000%.
Right.
But if you want to learn the conveyor belt, dude, like, I can teach you the conveyor belt real quick.
Heck yeah.
And we can scale and we can grow.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of the story. I mean, what's funny is like my girlfriends are the ones that kind of got me into the place
right.
where it kind of led me in life.
Shout out to the exes.
I know, right? But a lot of times, dude, it's just kind of the people that you know.
Right.
It's kind of the
relationships are so important. And we talked really deep into this the other day, and I can't remember if it was on their podcast or in your front door. Is relationships, or relationships that are real relationships and transactional relationships.
Bingo.
And the difference in that, like a lot of, and the problem I think with a lot of maybe the real estate industry and mortgage industry and just that hyper competitive, like fast moving industry, is everybody's just looking for a transaction.
Correct.
And they might, see especially maybe the mortgage officer, some mortgage officers to agents, is they're just looking, okay, I'm just going to go, like, the only reason I need this person is for the transaction, instead of going and building the true relationship with them and being their
correct.
You can call it their rock, their go-to, their friend, their, kind of like the relationship with Roger, where it starts growing, and then you can trust them, and then everything starts, growing. Expanding and growing from there.
Correct.
When you're just transactional, they know that. Like when I get a phone call from some people, I know they're just calling me to ask for something, which is fine. Like I need people in all different aspects, but don't act like, you want to take me to dinner. I'm like, man, I'd just rather skip dinner. Just ask me what you want. There's some people that I just want to go to dinner to hang out. Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I got a phone call just a couple of days ago that was like, hey, let's go to dinner. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, hey man, I'm really busy. I know you're just wanting something, just email what you want. Like if you're selling something good or you have something good, just show me what you want. And then there's some people that, you will go to lunch, take that because you really care about them. Yeah.
I said that on my podcast and I'm going to say it on yours, right? Like that analogy was school, where as you go through school and you go through college, you're taught to do everything on your own. Right. You're taught to take a test on your own.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
You know what I'm saying? It's you're never taught to collaborate. You're never taught to get with other people, because if you do, you're cheating.
Right.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is like when you get in the real estate industry or the mortgage business, we're all self-employed. So we're all building our individual businesses. Right. So when you go meet with the 4,000 agents here in Davis and Weber County, they all have egos, because egotistically, they all got their story, where they came from, how hard it was to get started, what I'm doing now. I'm proud of what I'm doing now.
Right.
Hey, don't botch my business, because I only do 12 buyers a year. So if you botch it, it's a bad reflection of me. Like I may not get a referral out of it. So what's really hard to understand is like the insecurity and pressures that they put on themselves. And then you've got to figure that out in order to work with them.
Right.
And then you got to perform at a high level, because it's like, well, dude, we both want the repeat referral business.
Right.
But the ego side of the business is what's crazy to me.
Oh, for sure.
And the ego side of the business is what creates like, hey, I'm not going to work with you because I know you work with so-and-so. Right. And I don't want that agent to know what I'm doing.
Right.
And it always has made me laugh, because it's like, dude, at the end of the day, there's no like golden field of leads that are coming in that nobody's figured out.
Right.
It's like you either buy leads or you cold call or you generate something somehow.
Yeah.
It's like we're all doing the same thing.
Right. You build it around on social media. You build it around from just being a really good, like the really important thing with, I would say any industry, any person, that if you talk the talk, you have to walk the walk.
Yep.
And especially in your industry, I know, because I've had some personal friends go in and come back out, and I'm like, you're not going to survive, because you have to perform. I mean, we were just on a phone call, or you were just on a phone call before this podcast of, issues that you're like, okay, we got to get this done. We're going to do this, boom, boom, boom. Like you have to have that, that drive and that vision to be able to get through issues, because especially in the mortgage industry, just like situation now, day of closing, something pops up, and it's like, gosh, like you can either freak out and lose your mind and everything is going to, and piss at everybody. But like, I'm not going to lie, you were pretty calm, collected. And I'm not going to say I was eavesdropping in a conversation, but it was on speakerphone. So, but you're just like, hey, we got we got this information. We'll get it done. I'll call the agent. I'll do this. I'll do that. Like we'll get an extension. We'll just get through it. And then, the other person, okay. Like
what's funny, Jace, is like everybody, you said it earlier, everybody's transactional. The only reason people freak out is because they want to get paid.
Right.
And what's funny is like they get emotional about it.
Right.
So when I call the agent and the agent's like, hey, dude, I don't know, we can't get an extension. It's like, we probably can. Because guess what? The builder wants to sell the house. The listing agent wants to sell the house. You want to sell the house, and I want to get the loan done.
Right.
Like, hey, sorry, something popped up from a marriage that we didn't know about. We've had to file through Christmas and New Year's for less than 15 days.
Right.
Something's probably going to happen.
Exactly.
But they get so emotional because they care about the transaction.
Right.
Right. Instead of realizing like, hey, the whole group as a whole, like, let's just talk through it. Everything's going to be fine. Calm the customer down.
Right.
Tell them everything's still going to be okay. We're working through it. It's not the end of the world. And oh, by the way, if we do it that way, The customer's extremely happy and we get referrals out of it.
Exactly.
But now you're getting, like, if they were to get mad at me, let's just say, you know, it's like, well, hey dude, like, I don't really want to work with you again because now I know how you understand you're handling me, which means you don't appreciate what we're doing.
Right.
And you don't care to understand how rough this has been.
Right.
And you don't want to care that, like, hey, people took Friday off. Monday was closed as a holiday.
Right.
If you look at the deadlines, we had like less than 9 business days to probably do this whole transaction.
Right. Yeah. There's like 19 business days all in December.
Yeah.
So especially
like,
in the last half is like nothing.
People just don't stop and think about the bigger picture of what's going on because they just care about the paycheck.
Right.
Right. And so that's why this has to be a game for people. Like life has to become a game.
Right.
Because then it becomes fun. Because then you become a problem solver.
Right.
And you become a solutionist.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest thing in life that's fun is like, hey, I'm not going to call you until I have a solution. Number one.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's what I've learned really early on is like, if you've got a problem, you solutionize the problem before we make the phone call.
Yeah. Or you make the phone call and say, hey, I have this problem. I've thought through these
different
5
scenarios.
things or these different scenarios. I need advice.
Yep.
No, that's different than like, so I think I talked to this at, you know, at your, we talk forever, but we have a book called, you know, We Make Every Manager Read called Wisdom of Oz. Great book. If you guys listen to this, you know, it's a great audiobook. I think it's a 4-hour audiobook, but it's a small book. And it talks about like this proverbial line, and you live above the line or below the line. And above the line is self-accountability. Everybody's on the same team. We got to just figure out solutions together.
Yep.
Below the line is that's not my job. I don't do that. That's not my, you know, job description. Especially, you know, when you're getting into these other states.
Yep.
Legally, like, you know, there's maybe a state that's our neighbor in California. It's a little different, but like legally, if you don't put it on their job description, they do not have to do it. I mean, that's not my job description. I don't have to do it. And so we call it this line, and people will call me and say, hey, I'm going to live below the line a little bit. You got 30 seconds. Just vent. Yep. And now what are we going to do about it? Yep. But when people just called, like, kind of, you know, just the bitch to bitch, I'm like, it's okay. Like, what do you call? And I will always, I'm kind of direct with people. I'm like, so what are you calling me for?
Yeah.
Like, you need to set my expectation of this event. Like the whole time I'm like, I'm trying to weave through this conversation. Like, what do you need? Is it this? And I'm like writing down notes. I'm like, what are you asking? Like, I'm calling an event. Okay, well, if you told me that before, I would have just, my guard would have been down, and instead I'm trying to figure out this conversation. But you have to create that. Like, it starts from the top down. You have to create that environment. Yeah. People want to solve problems, and I have the autonomy to do it. We kind of talked about, you know, a superstar-based business versus a system-based business. And if you systemize everything and you are not the answer for everything, then everybody has the autonomy to do things. But if you base everything off you, then all you're doing is fielding phone calls, and you will only grow as good as you or as much as you're able to handle in your bandwidth, which is only so much for a human being.
Yep.
But if you can build a team and duplicate your efforts,
like one of the things that I learned early on, and we talked about this, is like I use very blunt analogies. I love the above the line, below line. I just look at my employees and I say, like, legit, what do you love doing here, and what do you suck at?
Right.
Like what I'm really saying is, like, what do you hate? Just tell me.
Right.
Right. Because the faster we get this out of the way, like, it's okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate doing certain stuff in my job, so I hire people for that.
Exactly.
Like, we either have the money to hire for it or we don't.
Right.
Right. So it might be one of those conversations where it's like, hey, well, I need you to do these 6 things. You told me you hate 3 of them. Please just do 4 out of the 6 because these 2 can be handled by this other person.
Right.
And then I know that person's excited to show up to work. They don't get burnt out. There's never an excuse. There's never the blame game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then as a cohesive group, everybody knows their role. I think the hard thing about jobs is, like, people come in and, like, they just rule with an iron fist and say, hey, assistant, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
And then this assistant, a year in, 2 years in, is just like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And it's like, well, then why did I hire you?
Right.
And then they just start looking, like, it's funny to me, Jason, how many people look for new jobs and accept new job offers and never talk to the employees that they work for.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Thinking about that. That's so true.
Does that make sense? Like it's never a conversation of, like, hey, I'm thinking about this position. They're going to pay me $20,000 more per year, right? I get to work from home 3 days a week because I need to be with my dog. Right. Or my child goes to daycare, so I'm saving some money now, right? It's just like, hey, I'm jumping to this job, see ya. You know, where it's like this person just put so much time and effort because it like just happened. And I've got this guy kind of venting to me right now. It's like, I put in all these years with this specific person and she just bounced on me. And, like, I'm pissed.
Right.
You know? And he's like, it's fine that she's gone. Like, we're not going to hurt, but it's like, it just really makes me mad because I put so much time and effort into this specific person.
Right.
And I'm like, well, when she talked to you, did you try and match the money? And he's like, well, no, I'm just so mad that she just told me she's leaving.
Right.
Like, she didn't even want to talk to me about it.
Right.
Which means she doesn't even want to like be on my boat and row with us anymore. She doesn't want to head in the direction. She doesn't see the vision anymore.
Right.
Right. And I sat there and I thought, I'm like, it's interesting that people just bounce.
Right.
You know, because that to me is a bigger gamble, unless it's like just an opportunity that you can't pass up and you know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a bigger gamble than knowing what's happening and just having a raw conversation on like, hey, I want to grow.
Right.
Because it's not like this guy isn't looking to grow. He's looking to expand really, really, really big.
For sure.
Really fast. So it's not like this person doesn't have an opportunity to become something.
Right.
You know? And so that one's been always like very interesting to me.
Yeah. And it's like, it's having those conversations are important, and people don't know what they don't know. And so, you know, I don't know the situation, but like you can either blame, you know, there's so many sides of the story, and there's so many, you know, so much to a situation, but you know, there can either be, you know, the woman who left might never have ever voiced her opinion. So kind of shame on her. So he thought like, you know, how you doing? Great.
Bingo.
And all of a sudden bounce.
Bingo.
It's like, what the heck? Like, and so I actually get personal with people, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like the last time I was just at that dealership and then you left, what happened?
Yeah. Why?
Well, this is okay. When I looked you in the eye and asked you how's everything going? Do you need anything? And you said, no, everything's great, man. Appreciate all you do, blah, blah, blah. So were you lying to me into my, like, I'm very direct with people. They're like, well, hey, like if you have a better opportunity, like we can, at the end of the day, we can only pay what we can only pay. Right. So if you have an opportunity somewhere else, maybe it's a different industry,
which is cool.
Hopefully not a different dealership, but still I'm going to support you at a different dealership.
Yeah.
You need to have the conversation with me that says, hey, Jason, I got this offer. It fits better. It's, you know, closer to home, whatever the situation is. Like, is there anything, you know, what should I do? Is there anything that we can do as a company? Maybe let me work from home for a day, or do this or do that, or match the pay, or give me this benefit, that benefit, or should I do it? And I might look at you in the eye and say, I would take that offer because it's going to help your family and that, but we need to have, the conversation needs to happen.
But I think the hard part too, Jace, is like, that just tells you where society's at right now. Right. That if this employee comes and vents about her job and says she doesn't want to do something, or she doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Goes negative. Then that boss could look at her and say, you're fired. Right. And then she didn't have another opportunity to go do something. And now she's just like, or that boss is going to now judge her. So I understand why people do it. Mm-hmm. I guess the point that I'm getting to here is like, it goes back to, what do you enjoy doing? What do you suck at? Because if you enjoy being here, then like, I'm going to, like, this is my mindset. I'm going to overpay you. You're going to be paid more than anybody else in the industry because you're going to do a better job at what you love doing than anywhere else. Right. Nobody can steal you. You're going to love coming to work for me. And I never, ever have to manage you. Right. No, I don't have to talk to you. I'm going to bring that into our company. Is what are you good at? What do you suck at? Because Jace, like, you don't have to manage them. Right. You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to know that anything's getting screwed up. Right. Like, people will legit come to me, Jace, and they're like, I don't know how you do home loans. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you can start a file. You can talk to the client about their rate and fees, get them locked in, and then you can have your whole team do the rest and you never worry about it. And I'm like, that's the whole point. Right. That's why I hired him. Like, that's why there's a dentist and a doctor, and they have all these nurses and assistants. Like, you don't go to the doctor's office and you meet with the doctor. Yeah. Like, you start with the nurse. Right. Like, this is a professional business that we're running here. Right. If I can't trust my nurses and everybody to diagnose what's going on, then I just don't have the right people. Exactly. We got to find the right people. Yeah. And it's taking that awareness and saying, okay, like, you know, and it's funny because people that micromanage people, I think will never, you know, live up to their full potential. Maybe, it's hard to scale. It's impossible because you have to trust people. Yeah. You have to rely on, and people want to be held accountable, but they want the autonomy to do things and be flexible and help you out. Like, people, I guess in my eyes, like, try to look at the good in everybody, is people want to perform. And so if you let them fit in the parameters that they love, like, if you go to something, like, I love when people come to me, man, I hate doing this paperwork. Great. Well, you're the best salesperson we got. Or like in finance. Yeah. Hey, and we kind of have different situations, you know, in our finance offices, but we customize it to the person, right? Yeah. Because if the person is really good at selling and really good at helping the customer out and doing everything possible, but horrible at paperwork, well, there's a lot of compliance issues with that. Okay, we have a solution for that.
Don't worry about the paperwork.
Yeah.
If someone's really good at maybe the paperwork, horrible at selling, okay, we got a solution for that. If someone's really good at packaging the deals and sending it off to the banks because of how and knows how the banks are gonna want to buy it, right? Just similar to mortgage.
Yep.
You know, you kind of, when someone comes in and says boom, 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 your mind goes to a certain lender, or your mind goes to here. Okay, we're gonna package it like this because this lender likes it to look like X, right? Same thing in the RV business. We do it in automotive industry. We do indirect lending. And so if you're not good at that, we have a solution for that. Correct. I mean, and it's, okay, well, this person's like the highest performing salesperson we got. They're consistently this much percent of sales, and boom, boom, boom. But they're horrible. Like, okay, office, I need you to stop bugging them about the paperwork. We're just going to get someone to do it, because we need them to perform at the top that they are comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I know you got to be, comfortable with the uncomfortable, but what they're so good at, just let them do them.
And I think it comes back to like two things that we've already talked about, Jace. Number one, what does your manager or boss look like? Because if it's like the coach that I had in high school, you can't go to him. You can't go talk to them and be like, I don't like to do this, or I can't do this. Like and the other thing too is like, there's no confidence in what I'm doing here.
Right.
Like I'm beat down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or there's the other side of this where it's your culture, which is an amazing culture. And this is why you guys will make bajillions of dollars, which is, hey dude, come tell me, because I need this to operate and run really fast. You're not in trouble, dude. Like, this is amazing. Go talk to some more people. I'll have this guy do the paperwork, right? And that's what I figured out. That's what I figured out really early in my career. Is like, if I'm going to do more mortgages every month, I need to be the person that only meets with them, talks about rate and fees, and we're done.
Right.
I need everybody else to push the paperwork and get it to closing.
Right.
And if I can just focus on this and I'm not chasing papers all day long, that means I got more time to do this.
Right.
And then if I can duplicate myself on the back end of this, now I got 3, 4, 5 Rhetts working for me.
Right.
We're not working 12-hour days anymore.
Exactly.
Now we're working 60, 70, 72-hour days because I got so many people working.
Exactly.
And now I can go dominate.
Right. But it's so hard for people to get that, because they want control.
Yeah.
And like you like to travel, you like to hang out. I like to travel, I like to hang out. I don't want everything to revolve around me.
Correct.
Right. I want people to be able to duplicate my efforts, like you just said. But it takes someone being aware like that. Correct. Like in maybe, if you're listening, like a lot of this people who listen to this podcast are maybe in leadership positions, owners, whatever. If you need to take a inventory or whatever of how you operate, and am I the person that people can come talk to, of how am I operating? Is it a dictatorship? Because I don't see any of that being successful. But
yeah, I mean, here's my other advice too. Is it's like everybody wants to be accepted. Right. Everybody wants to prove that they're good at what they're doing, right? And so I put my people in a position where it's like they'll come to me sometimes and they're like, "Hey, I want Friday off," and I'll look at them and I'm like, "Why are you even asking me?"
Right?
Like, just go take the day out. Like, I don't care.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, the only time I'm gonna care is when my business is suffering.
Right.
So as long as we're all doing a phenomenal job, like, dude, I don't care if you take off 4 days. I don't care if you're working in Hawaii. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
Like, as long as stuff's getting done, you do you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that.
Because like I always hated when people dictated when I took work off.
Right.
So why would I dictate to my staff what they can do?
Right.
It's like, I hired you, I overpay you, which means really what I'm saying to you is I expect you to do a really, really, really good job for the consumer.
Right.
If we can't do a good job, then like I've got to figure out, hey, you can't work from home anymore.
Right.
Like all my employees, Jace, they work from home. I could care less.
Right.
But there's a lot of people right now where it's like society's weak. People aren't going into the office anymore. Everybody should come in. And it's like, yeah, but guess what? That means they don't love what they do. You're not paying them enough money to do it. And so you got to micromanage them.
Right.
You need them under your like little thumb here in the office to watch them.
Yeah.
Right. For me, I'm the complete opposite.
Right.
It's like, I know I'm going to make more money long-term if I pay out more in the short term.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that because they're trying to hold on to their pennies.
Yeah.
They're trying to hold on to all their money, which means you can never scale.
Right.
Jason, I made more money. I made less money this year in a bigger role than I did 3 years ago.
Wow.
2 years ago and last year.
Wow.
So I took a step backwards.
Right.
That's on paper. That's what people think. Right.
Right.
Bro, I just set myself up to make an absurd amount of money this year.
Right.
But I had to go backwards in order to go forwards, which means I basically invested in more people this year to be able to go forward. Right.
Right.
And people just don't understand that when they're scaling. It's the ego thing gets in their way. It's like, well, I've been doing this 5 years. So the 6th year I got to be better.
Right.
The 7th year I've got to be better financially because I deserve this. I put the time in.
Yeah, sometimes you got to have a reset, a regroup, and your goals change.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you were a different position, different company.
Time
now
and season.
you're at this, your company, your role has changed and your goals have changed.
Yep.
And now you have to build that foundation. I mean, and you have to, doing the things that you're doing and getting all of the team that you're building and creating that culture, you have to go lay in that foundation.
Correct.
A lot of times when companies, like we see it a lot in tech companies, they'll just have this great idea, this great software, go raise a bunch of money, go build this insane office, and then boom, gone.
That's why this economy is amazing now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to show the winners who win, and the people that could go raise money are losers, and they're going to be at zero again.
Right.
And you're seeing it happen right now. Right. And so this is just what's fun about business in general.
For sure.
And everything's a time and season. Like, that's the other thing people need to understand.
Right.
Like, I've got a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, and 8-year-old.
Right.
Jace, I probably got 3 years to go as hard as I can.
Right.
Where my 11-year, like, I tell this to people all the time. We had dinner every night between 5 and 6 p.m. with my family growing up. I just don't remember when I was 8 years old having dinner.
Right.
I just don't remember at 7 years old having dinner and it being impactful in my life. And like, dude, do I look back and I appreciate that? 1,000%. But what I look at with my wife right now is it's like, hey, I got 3 years to push as hard as I possibly can, because once my daughter turns 11 and 12, I'm going in full dad mode, because I need to grow. I need her to be the most confident woman between the ages of 12 to the ages of 18 to set her up for life.
Right.
Which means I've got to be a lot more present. I can't leave the house at 8 in the morning and come back at 7:30 anymore.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, Jace. I've never missed a thing my child's done. Never. And I never will.
Love it.
I'm always there.
Love it.
But do I hold dinner as like a big pivotal point right now in my kids' lives? No. If you came to my house, Jace, we have a little teeny table where my kids have sat since they were little kids, and me and my wife stand at the counter and eat.
Really?
And that is our dinner every night. People
awesome.
Like, my videographer was there the other day and he was laughing at us. He's like, this is how you guys eat? I'm like, yeah. Because he sits down with his family every single night.
Right.
Right. And I just said to him, I'm like, dude, I don't have enough time.
Right.
And it's not that like, I don't play with my kids. We don't go on bike rides. We don't go to the, but like, dude, we do all that.
Right.
I just don't think dinner's the most important.
Right.
When I ask my kids what was the funnest thing they did this year, they say Mexico. They say Hawaii. They say Lake Powell. They say St. George.
Yeah.
They say hot tubbing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not once has my daughter been like, hey, Dad, like, dinner was awesome.
Right.
And I don't know. A lot of people probably judge me for that and be like, dude, you're missing the boat of that 1 hour of family time together.
Right.
And I'm just like,
yeah,
dude,
but I mean, in it's different situations, different goals, different, but like everything is, everybody's so different, right?
Yep.
Now, I grew up very similar kind of to what you're doing. I mean, my mom and dad were gone 300 plus days a year, and hardly remember ever spending any like holidays with them, or they were always gone. But and that was very extreme, but I can appreciate the sacrifices they made for how we lived and everything we've done. And I'm sure that your daughter is going to sit there when, you're making all this money and really it's not about the money. It's about the lifestyle you're living and what you can provide for her. And, if she plays sport, I don't know, but she plays sports or dances, you can get her in those best, the best cheer dance competitions, fly them to the places that, I don't know, my daughter's only 4 and she's in it, but they're like already asking her to go to, to some state, to some different, I don't know what their conventions and stuff like, and that she'll appreciate that dad is hustling and providing for me.
Correct.
More than, my mom and dad were pretty mediocre. I mean, they were at dinner every night, but they're kind of mediocre. And
because like that was a pivotal moment for us just a couple months ago. Like my wife called me up and because my daughters are obsessed with dance, bro. Really? Like obsessed. I can't get them to like play soccer, play basketball, do anything else. Like it's straight dance and tumbling, right? And my wife's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't want to be the parent that makes them well-rounded individuals. Like I don't need a bunch of mediocre kids that are mediocre at basketball, mediocre at softball, mediocre at volleyball, mediocre, and we're shoving them to all these different events every single week. It's like, if my 8-year-old is obsessed with dance and tumbling, let's double down.
Right.
Right? Dude, they're 5 nights a week right now.
Wow.
People are probably looking at me being like, you're going to burn them out. Guess my daughter is the happiest person in this entire world at 8 years old.
Wow.
Like,
that's awesome.
When she gets home from dance and I'm like, how was it? She's like, Dad, let's go. I'm going to show you back handspring. Right. I'm going to show how I can do 3 of them in a row now.
Right. That's
and we
awesome.
go down to the little tumbling mat in the basement.
Right.
And I'll just frickin' whip out a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And I sit there and I stare at it, dude. And I'm like, to me, this is happiness. Right. I've got a bunch of girls right now that are uber confident in what they're doing.
Right.
This is what life's about.
Yeah.
Because when they get to go try out for the drill team in high school and we put them in all these other sports that they hated, and we forced them to do it, and they can't do a back handspring in high school, and they don't make the team.
Right.
Like, dude, their confidence is shot.
Right.
They're not good enough at basketball. They're not good enough at softball. They're not good enough at dance. And now I got to deal with them as a teenager on like, crap, dude, we're at the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
Then they probably start hanging out with the wrong group of friends, and life is just, the trajectory is just totally different.
Right.
Time will tell, Jace, right?
Yeah.
But to me, watching her right now is like, if this is what she loves to do, double down on it.
Right.
And let her go do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of parents just try and like, you see this a lot in parents. It's like, well, it makes me laugh. Like one of my good friends, I love him to death, dude. But when his son was born, he had this eye defect. And I remember him looking at me and him just being like, so sad, right? Being like, his eyes are messed up. We're going to have a lot of surgeries going through life. And he was just like, all I wanted for this kid was to be the best linebacker ever.
Wow.
And I'm like sitting there staring at the kid, right? I'm like, bro, you didn't play a down in high school.
Right.
And your wife is not athletic.
Right.
And you're crying to me right now that all you care about in life as a father is that he had good eyes to be a linebacker in high school. When he, like, we're talking 16 years from now.
Right.
Right. Number one, like with technology, I don't even know if high school football is cool anymore.
Right.
But I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, the gene pool isn't working out for this kid already.
For sure.
And so he's taking what he wants his kid to be and putting that on him at like 1 or 2 years old already.
Right.
Right. And I look back at like my life and I'm like, people talk about balance all the time. You've got to be a well-balanced human.
Right.
I'm like, LeBron wasn't a well-balanced human, bro.
Right.
Everybody that we idolize, everybody that we look up to, everybody that we wish we were like, everybody that's successful was never a well-balanced human.
Right.
Right. And so that's when I sit here and I look at it and I'm like, I'm not going to force my kids into playing football, soccer, everything. You know what I'm saying? Because they could play lacrosse. I mean, you could throw them in so many sports so fast.
Right.
And then you just create mediocrity.
Right.
Because society has said, well, you got to be balanced.
Yeah. And there's so many parents that try to live their lost hopes and lost dreams to their kids, right? Especially with in Utah, we have a lot of younger people having kids.
Correct.
And, that high school removal or college removal isn't that far, right? No. It's not like it's, been a really long time.
And what they couldn't accomplish, they're hoping their kid can for them.
Right.
And so they put that on their child.
Yeah. I
mean, and then there's a ton of disappointment.
High school games when,
parents are freaking out.
Yeah. Parents, I'm like, just
because their kid's not playing.
Yeah. And, look with our daughter, she loves dance and tumbling, and she's actually really good at tumbling. She's 4, can do, I don't know what they're all called, but can do everything where the teacher's like, hey, she can't be in this class anymore. She's got to go to the advanced class because she's making everybody, she's bored. And dance, she's crushing it. And, she plays soccer, and I think this year we're going to get her in a little t-ball, whatever. But we've got together because I obviously divorced. So it's, my wife, it's my ex-wife, her husband.
Yep.
We've kind of got together. I'm like, hey, my ex-wife does not like dance, and she did drill and all that stuff growing up, but she's like, it's so much time, blah, blah, blah. She's been kind of like against it, but looking at how Remy, my daughter, is so engulfed in dance and tumbling. She has a tumbling mat upstairs, she got a tumbling mat downstairs, and for hours she'll practice her cartwheels, her round offs, her back bends, all these things, and then dance. And I learned her little Christmas dance, and so I would teach her. We would dance together and do all that stuff. And we've kind of come together as a parent group and said she's going to do whatever she wants to do.
Bingo.
And we'll ask her, do you want to play soccer this year? She'll say no or yes, or even it goes to practice. Like Remy, and I know she's only 4, so this is why we ask. Like, do you want to go to tumbling today? No. Okay. We're not going to go to tumbling because I don't want to burn her out, but I found as she's getting a little bit older, she's starting to love tumbling and dance. She gets so upset if she has to miss or on vacation. But luckily, my wife, is a professional dancer. I mean, she was not a stripper, but she danced, for the Arizona. She danced at the University of Utah for 4 years. She danced at the Arizona Cardinals in NFL.
That's awesome.
And then she's in Utah Jazz for a while. And so she's obviously can teach Remy how to do all these things while we're on vacation. But I'm just seeing, so many people trying to live through their kids and trying to force them to do things and burn them out. And then 5 years down the road, now the parents kind of resent the kids. Oh, I got to take them here. Oh, I got to take them there. And then
it's not only that, dude. It's like the kids are gonna resent the parents.
Right? Yeah.
It's a huge strain on the relationship.
Because then you're like, oh, my parents make me do this or make me do that.
Bingo.
Your daughter comes home because she goes to dance because she has that like burning desire,
looks forward to it,
and then she comes
day.
home probably and can't wait to show you what she's done, and then you're there for another 30 minutes, another hour.
But Jace, like, she's excited about the dance outfit,
right?
Like, we got to go to the store and buy new dance outfits
my daughter's tap shoes, she wears them every day.
Yeah, because a new girl showed up with a different crop top or something. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah,
you know. But it's awesome to watch because like I'm just under the belief like. We talked about this on my podcast. Like my dad did different stuff than his dad.
Right.
I did different stuff than my dad.
Right.
And so when you're trying to put that on your kids, I understand it. It's like you just want your kid to be successful. You know what you did and did not do. So you're trying to teach them. Right. I understand it. But you also got to let your kid like spread their wings and fly.
Yeah.
You got to let them have enough confidence to make their own decisions, to also go fail.
Right.
And then also be able to pick it up and keep moving forward. And to me, like, I would rather have my daughter in dance 4 or 5 nights a week than sitting at home watching TV.
For sure.
And pounding a bag of chips.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the other thing. And then you're a product of your surroundings. So like once they get into school, she's going to meet friends that play soccer, meet friends that play volleyball.
Yeah.
And then that might be her time when it's like, hey, I'm interested in this.
Right.
You know, but it's like, hey, I can see how coordinated and talented you are right now. It's not going to be that hard to teach you. Right. Now, don't get me wrong, Jace. Like, we got a basketball hoop in the basement. Like, we throw the football around.
Right.
We roller skate. Like, we do a lot of stuff with the kids that's not dance. Like, they're very talented humans.
Right.
But if they tell me they don't want to go play on a soccer team, cool. Sounds good.
Right.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But in 2 years, she might because her friends are doing that.
Right.
But we've also kicked a soccer ball so many times in the basement that it's like, it's going to be really easy for you to pick this up if that's what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And again, dude, to me, it's just there's a time and season for everything.
Right.
And that goes for work. That goes for life. You know, I might be freaking driven for the next 5 years and then I might just slow it down, dude.
Right.
Because it's time to teach my kids.
Right.
And then I've got probably a 10-year window of doing that for a decade. Right. Where I'm just on coast mode, maybe. We'll see.
Right.
And then right after that, dude, pick it right back up.
Heck yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting roller coaster, and I just don't put a lot of weight on like need or having to do stuff.
Right.
Like the outside world of judgment of what you should do day in and day out. It's like, dude, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get to the gym, get home. My wife's got to go to the gym. I'm off to work.
Right.
Like, Jace, I don't know what's going on today. I got a couple meetings outside of that, but like, my day will be chock full.
Right.
I'll be on the phone. My phone's blown up right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll be on the phone multiple times today.
Yeah.
You know, but like, dude, this is why it's fun. Like, this is why life in general is a complete game because like, you just can't judge yourself.
Right.
You know, like I don't judge myself as a parent. I don't judge my wife as a parent. Like we're doing the best that we can.
Right.
And that's all I really care about.
I love it. And you and it's kind of like a game. You have successes, you have failures. You might lose the game. You start back in. You keep going, and you keep hustling. You learn from your mistakes. You hope you fail fast, right? Like if you're going to fail fast. Get through the situation. Move on from it. There should be no expectation of anything being perfect. Which I think is crazy that some people think everything's gonna be perfect. And when situations arise or failures happen, just move through them. I mean, I've never met a person, and even talking to you, success didn't just come. Oh yeah, I graduated high school. On May 17th and May 18th, I was had all the golden ticket and had all this stuff. Like most people are on their second, third, fourth, fifth career, second, third, fourth, fifth business, team, whatever it is, to just find out where, like you say, there's a season for everything, to find out where they're going to fit best or the situation. And the worst thing people can do is force themselves into situations that just don't necessarily make sense. And like I love how you say there's a season for everything, because there is a season for everything, and it's just that timing, right? Where you have to go out and do the work. Like I'm the guy that's you have to have the vision, the dream, the belief, all that stuff, but you can't just sit here and hope the big bus rolls up to your front yard with a bunch of money and say, oh hey, yeah, we've all and like same with you, like in the mortgage business of you're building a team. Which love, man, we have to do another episode and talk about everything you're doing. But you're building a team. You have to go out there and hustle. You have to build a team. You have to make those relationships. You're not just sitting in your house. Is gorgeous, by the way. You're not just sitting in your beautiful house and looking across the street saying, "Man, this bus should be here sometime." Dropping off, 50 people, 50, people who want to work for me and this and that. Like this is not happening.
You heard the call this morning, dude. I was on speaker. It's an employee that's just like, "What's going on?"
Right.
With 2 other people. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, we just all got to jump on a call.
Yeah.
We all just got to figure this out together, right? We've all got our opinions or ideas of what's happening, but until we just kind of vent in a non-malicious way,
right?
Like as long as we can all approach it non-maliciously and not judgmental and just learn from it and implement a little bit better of a system, like all we're trying to do is get better every day.
And all you're trying to do is accomplish the end goal. Like from the conversation, all 4 of you, I guess there is, or 3, whatever it is, one to accomplish the end goal.
Correct.
There's kind of some discrepancy in how we're getting there. So let's just get it aligned and accomplish the end goal. Like, and like how you said, let's get in a room, set the expectation of maybe we're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but at the end of the conversation, we're trying to accomplish a goal. There's no problem with that.
Correct.
But it starts with the top. So hey man, I appreciate you so much. I've had some of the best conversations with you probably in the last like 72 hours I've had in a really long time. The last thing I want to ask you, man, is what does success mean to you? How do you define success?
Dude, success for me, I'm weird, dude. Success for me has nothing to do with money. And what I mean by that is like when you are helping people out, Jace, like when I say like when we look at people and idolize people, like if you think of some of the most biggest public figures to ever walk the earth, like let's go there. And we'll start with like Jesus Christ. Right. We'll go to like Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Like we're talking like huge figures that have been around for thousands of years. Right. What's the number one thing they all did?
Serve people?
Serve people, bro. They gave.
Right.
Not one of them was a taker.
Right.
Right. And so when you think about that, if you want to have a legacy, if you want to be well known, if you want to be rich, like, dude, you serve people.
I love that.
You give.
I love that.
Right. And when you give and when you serve people, that's when the money just flows up the line.
Heck yeah.
Because everybody wants to be around you. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, to me, that's my idea of success is like, Jace, if you came to dinner with me, I will pay for you every time.
Right.
Like my credit card's the first one out. I'm the one sneaking it to people. Some people have taken that, Jace, as like, oh, this guy's just showing his money off.
Right.
No, what it is, dude, is like, this is how I build friendships. Yeah. And this is my way of saying thanks for spending time with me tonight.
We're so alike.
Right? Yeah. Like when it comes to gift giving, like my wife freaking gets baller gifts every birthday and it has so alike, and she is the complete opposite of me. She needs nothing in life. Right. I spend all the money, she doesn't. Right. But that's just who I am.
Dude, we're like carbon copy family.
But the thing is, Jace, is like I know how it makes people feel. Right. And I know like when you receive love and you're noticed and you're serving others and like that feeling that you get when you serve, like that's success to me.
Yeah. No, that's
what I'm
so
saying?
Powerful. Yeah.
So hopefully like throughout this whole podcast and this whole thing, like kind of wrapping it all together, like at the end of the day, that's why this is a game because all I'm looking to do is help people. Right. Right. And I know we've chatted about that and that's what you enjoy doing. And that's why you're being successful. Yeah. You know,
for sure.
But no, dude, I appreciate this. Like, this has been awesome,
dude. Thank you so much. I wanna promote your podcast, man, because it's freaking awesome. So, where can they find your podcast? What is it called,
dude? Ours is called The Standard. Like, I love Culture Camp. Ours is called The Standard. Like in my life, a lot of people set goals, but they never achieve their goals. Right? You've got to legit change your standards in order to accomplish something. Right? Don't hang out with those people. We don't drink. We don't whatever that might be. You know what I'm saying? Right. Whatever those standards are that are holding you back, you've got to change. So mine's kind of the blueprint of like how people become successful and legit, they all just change their standards. They chose to do something different. We just got it on YouTube. It's just under Rhett Weaver on YouTube. That's where we kind of host everything. And that's kind of where we do it all. We love the video form of it and chop it up that way. For sure. But to kind of catch the standard, just go to YouTube, Rhett Weaver.
Sweet. And then Instagram?
Instagram is Weaver Rhett.
Sweet.
Yeah. So awesome, come catch me there. Cool, I mean, I'm sure we'll tag each other.
And killer content for sure. So, dude, I appreciate you. This has been epic, man. I've learned so much from you and just enjoyed the last couple conversations. I appreciate you being on my podcast, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.